I'm Monica Tu, a PhD student with Dr. Kevin Oxner in the Department of Psychology at Columbia University. I'm going to show you some of my recent work investigating the neural pattern structure of facial age and gender. Facial traits are not perceived identically. In particular, it seems that we tend to judge age continuously, as a number, but that we tend to judge gender categorically, more like a binary. So, in this study, we asked, when people perceive white adult faces, are facial age and gender actually represented in a binary or continuous manner? And since faces always carry both age and gender information, how does processing depend on which trait is task relevant? We investigated this by asking 25 young adults to judge the age and gender of white faces during fMRI. We constructed these faces by selecting young and old men's and women's faces from a database and morphing them together to produce faces continuously varying along either age or gender. In our 2x2 within subjects design, participants judged either age from young to old or gender from masculine to feminine, and they made these judgments using either a binary forced choice or a continuous scale. Importantly, participants saw faces from both gender endpoints while judging age and from both age endpoints while judging gender. In behavior, this allowed us to examine how ratings of one trait differed based on facial variations in the other trait. In the brain, this allowed us to examine how bold signals tracking age and gender varied based on which trait was being actively judged and how. In particular, we used representational similarity analysis to identify brain regions that appeared to code for facial age and gender during each response type. Consistent with prior behavioral results for white faces, we found that participants judged masculine faces as older and older faces as more masculine. For continuous judgments in particular, we saw a generally linear relationship between facial age and age ratings, but for facial gender, we saw categorical-like S-shaped leveling off of gender ratings near the extremes of masculinity and femininity. This suggests that people are indeed perceiving gender more categorically, because they're rating faces that do actually differ in gender as equally masculine or feminine, yielding that leveled off slope at the ends. We also saw a response time interaction between active trait and response type, where age was judged faster during continuous than during binary trials, but gender was judged faster during binary trials than during continuous trials. In the brain, we found that regions all across the cortex tracked facial age during age judgments and gender during gender judgments. No surprise there. In particular, the bilateral anterior temporal lobe, associated with social semantic processing, and bilateral orbitofrontal cortex, associated with complex goal-related processing, tracked facial age more strongly during continuous trials than binary trials. Together, these brain and behavioral results suggest that participants find it easier to judge age continuously and gender categorically, perhaps supported by stronger neural coding while using the matching response type, at least for facial age. We also found that several regions tracked facial gender during age judgments when it was irrelevant to the task, including the left anterior temporal lobe and bilateral orbitofrontal cortex again, the bilateral fusiform gyrus and left posterior STS associated with face processing, and the bilateral dorsomedial prefrontal cortex associated with general social processing. Further, these regions, as well as broader swaths of the medial prefrontal cortex, showed stronger task-irrelevant gender coding during binary age judgments than during continuous age judgments. This neural effect was consistent with RT differences, where participants were a little slower to make non-matching binary age judgments than non-matching continuous gender judgments, suggesting greater interference from gender information during binary age judgments. These results illustrate that in the brain, facial age may be coded more continuously and gender more categorically, and that gender may be coded more strongly than age. Our results highlight that all facial traits are not processed the same, and the theories and tasks must take this into account. We hope that future research can extend these findings beyond white faces and young perceivers to fully characterize how we see other people.